quiz you how well you guys are reading up on the market. So we have 3 questions. If you guys get all 3 right, I'll donate $1,000 to any charity of your choosing. First question. Elon Musk has funded how many of the top 10 AI companies in the world? Founded or funded?
AI is taking people's jobs. Currently, that is happening. Where are those people going?
Question number 2. What percent of OpenAI's employees are from Meta? The answer is 10%, 20%, or 30%.
Attention is the scarcest resource and the scarcest commodity, and you have to be good at capturing it. That's why we spent a whole episode a while ago talking about Roy Lee and Cluey, and we still make fun of him.
Question number 3. Which AI company said it shall not take any money from the Middle Easterns, and then a few quarters later took a bunch of money from the Middle Easterns?
Bill Burr. Bill Burr is the
Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs. Welcome back to Top Line. We are so grateful to have our co-host return from the Far East. AJ Bruno got back from his trip from Japan. He's with us, as is Asid Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency, and we've got a packed docket today. The first topic, deception or just changing your mind. We're going to dive into companies that say one thing and do another. Hint, hint, we're talking about Anthropic. The second topic, everyone is buying. Buyers are in the market. They're buying AI solutions, but will it last? We'll dive deep. And then, is everybody not hiring? Big companies are not hiring. There's a big article in the Wall Street Journal, and we're going to talk about the promised efficiencies of AI on the back office and whether they will materialize in the form of growth and profits. Gentlemen, start your engines, please.
Let's go.
And welcome back to Top Line. Asid, I believe we might have a quiz to kick us off today.
We don't always have a quiz. We're going to quiz you how well you guys are reading up on the market. So we have 3 questions. If you guys get all 3 right, I'll donate $1,000 to any charity of your choosing.
As long as
Wait, hold on. One of the two of us have to get it right? Can we collaborate?
Total, between the two of you, if you got 3 right.
How did you guys do on the last? Sam, how did you do on the last quizzes?
I think quite well. I typicly do pretty good on these.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
This is an easy way to lose some money.
We also have to see if these are multiple choice or not. So if Asid gives us some choices, we have a chance. 1 and 3, obviously.
As Sam said, I'm back from the Far East, so I'm in my Zen moment. I'm very centered. My chi is centered. We got quizzes to do, but I'll throw in inspiration as the episode goes. That just a little bit of Japanese culture that you have to stay tuned to this whole episode to learn about Japanese culture through the lens of AJ Bruno.
That's going to hold the audience. Okay. Okay. Here's the quiz. First question. Elon Musk has funded how many of the top 10 AI companies in the world? Founded or funded? The answer is
founded or funded.
2, 3, or 4.
Well, Sam and I get to talk about this.
This is Asid doesn't. He's not like 2, 12, 42. It's like all of those are
2.5, 3.
I will say here. Well, are we allowed to collaborate?
OpenAI.
Are we allowed to collaborate?
Yes,
you can. You guys can collude.
Okay.
So Grok and OpenAI, Sam.
Yeah. OpenAI, Tesla is considered an AI company, and that's definitely in the top 10. And then is Grok a separate company at this point, or is it part of
XAI is one big thing.
And is Grok is Grok a top 10? That's the second question.
It is. It's the highest performing model.
You're not allowed to help us. Awesome. You're not allowed to help us.
So it's definitely 3. Then the other, so did he have anything to do with Anthropic? Probably not.
No.
I don't even know who the other AI companies are. Is Microsoft considered an AI?
Well,
is Google considered an AI? Perplexity?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, does he own Google stock?
Is SpaceX considered an AI company? Is PayPal considered an AI company?
No.
What about Instagram?
You have to lock in your answers.
The answer is 3. We're going with 3.
I was going to say 3
You are wrong. Unfortunately, you are wrong. It is 4. So, obviously, you were right about Tesla.
You don't have to
You're right
shout
about
it, also. Just take it easy. It's okay.
You're right about Tesla. You're right about XAI and OpenAI. But he was also one of the early investors of DeepMind, which then got rolled into OpenAI.
That's a good one.
This guy's been trying to do AI for a very long time.
Was DeepMind rolled into OpenAI or into Google? I thought Google acquired DeepMind.
Oh, sorry, to Google. They acquired him.
Right, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question.
number 2.
We already lost our $1,000, Sam.
Lost
I know.
1,000. That's fine.
Game over.
Okay.
If we
Question number 2.
were on 20-minute VC, Asa would have bet us 50,000 because that's what a baller Harry is. But Asa's just got a G.
As our subscribers go up, my numbers will go up. Okay. Question number 2. What percent? We've heard a lot about Meta hiring other people's employees, right? But what percent of OpenAI's employees are from Meta? The answer is 10%, 20%, or 30%.
I feel like I've heard this one before.
20%.
Oh, you think? Wait, hold on. That's our final. That's our final
Sam's
one?
right.
Okay, that's our final answer.
Let's
go.
Sam is right. Why did you say 20?
Because it was in the middle. It sounded right to me.
It felt right. It felt right. That's how I answered most of my exam questions in school.
Indeed.
This is really interesting where such a large percent of a company's employee base is from one organization. Can you have your own culture, especially if a lot of the senior people are just from one organization? Have you guys ever been somewhere where a large subset of the employees were from somewhere else?
Yeah, my own company. They're all from Trenkite. So
I think that's
I think
that's
that's-
a great question, Austin.
I think it's through the lens of the CEO and founder. If you look at all the founders that have come from Meta AI, how many of them take inspiration from same with Google? Like a large portion of founders that we know from those companies take a lot of those pieces and pull them forward. And so if you're hiring from those companies, I think you're coming in with the expectation that the values of the company are aligned to that. And you have like a known. But people
Just
can't
think,
replicate those big companies.
Given all the turnover and all the mercenary nature of hiring in AI and AI research in the Valley, I feel like what is culture? Like, I don't even know it's got to be weird. It's got to be a strange thing, feeling like this. It's like when, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and what's the other guy? Chris Bosh.
Chris Bosh.
Yeah, went to the Heat.
Interesting.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
Well, they won a
Question
championship. It did okay.
Question number 3. Okay. Which AI company said it shall not take any money from the Middle Easterns and then a few quarters later took a bunch of money from the Middle Easterns?
Bill Burr. Bill Burr is the Anthropic.
OpenAI, XAI, or Anthropic?
Anthropic.
And that is a good lead to our first topic, which
Wait,
is...
we got 2 of 3. Do we get $666?
No, you get nothing. You get nothing.
That's so mean.
So the thing I've been thinking a lot about is this idea of, are these AI companies just uniquely deceptive organizations? And so here's the layup for this. If you look at these AI companies, there's this trend line that they say something and then soon after they walk it back. A really good example of this would be OpenAI saying that we'll be open source. They're not open source anymore. They were saying they shall be a nonprofit. They're walking that back. But the one that really made me think about this topic was Anthropic. And the reason for it is maybe because they have this like righteous, moralistic founding story that AI will destroy the world unless we are the first ones to get to AGI because we have everyone's best interests in mind. And so they had said, we shall not take money from the Gulf. And then soon, not too far off from then, they ended up taking a bunch of money from them. And so when I read that, I thought, what a deceptive organization. But on the other side of this, when you meet a person who has a strong opinion, but as new information presents itself, they change their mind. We think that's a sign of intelligence. And so, Sam, how do we compute this? When does deception end and intelligence begin? Like, how does one read these things?
I think you have to use a 2x2 framework, which is on the y-axis is value adherence, and on the x-axis is materiality of decision, like how big a decision is it. And so you could have, if you imagine upper right, you could have strong value adherence and a very important decision, or you could even flip it and say upper right is very value, it goes against your values, or you could do it the reverse. But my point is, I think you have to measure it against those two dimensions of how much does it contradict your stated values? How much of a deception is it? Is it a deception that is fundamental to your existence? I would say that OpenAI being a closed source system is quite fundamental to the nature of their existence. I think that OpenAI being and migrating to a for-profit company that mines its own secrets and is pursuing its own AGI goals and taking, gobs and gobs of money is completely contrary to the stated mission of OpenAI when Sam Altman and Elon funded it and founded it. So I think that's like the worst example. Do I think am I smart enough to understand and to have a point of view on like the AI war and the AI race and trying to understand, are we going to beat, China, or are we going to beat the Middle East? Or I don't really think it's possible. I mean, I think given the levels of compute that are required, I would put Anthropic's violation lower than OpenAI's deception. I think saying who you're going to take money from is a nice thing. I think painting the entire Middle East as some kind of supervillain is not particularly productive. And I think it's really hard to build AI. If AI is going to require $1 trillion of data center build out and compute and all that stuff, you got to go where the money is. And they are the people that have more of it than anybody. So I don't view that reversal actually as core as the reversal of Sam Altman and OpenAI, which I don't think has ever really been explained or justified. It's just sort of presented as de facto, which is pretty wild.
But Austin, I think like the question, as Sam was answering it, I was thinking about in terms, and I wanted to ask back to you, is like, oh, seems to be a trend not just with tech companies, but just more generally, that it's okay to walk things back. In a lot of ways, talk out of both sides of your mouth, and we just have accepted that. We've normalized that. I mean, what's your feeling and opinion on what Anthropic's done?
I don't like I find them to be annoying, even though I like their technology. I find them annoying because I find people that take these like moralistic stances to be quite annoying. Because the whole founding story is that AI will destroy the world unless we're the first ones to get there, because we have everyone's best interests in mind. And so we're going to do it in a certain way. There are these rules, there's this constitution, there are these rules that we're going to follow. And then they just keep backtracking from all of those statements that they make. And so I find that annoying. I think it's just easier if you take the OpenAI approach where you're like, yeah, we just changed our mind about something and AI is intense and dangerous, but we think we'll all figure it out. Like I can get behind that. I can't get behind the Anthropic one. And so when they do it, I get annoyed. But when others do it, I don't. And it's probably because of that self-righteous like essence that they have.
Well, it ultimately shows the lack of experience in the sense of like they're processing this and speaking out loud about what they're thinking in the moment. And when Sam Altman was fired in a very unpopular choice by the board of OpenAI 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago at this point? It was a year and a half ago.
Something like that.
We all had the backlash, but the spirit of the firing was like, look, this is getting real fast, and we as a society need to take a step back and truly understand what the consequences of what we're doing here. And I think you're seeing that manifest today, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. And yeah, like, for sure.
What are the dangers? Like, I find that like that group of people. So I think the OpenAI thing was really interesting because their board had basically materialized into a concentration of these AI safety people. And that created an opening, but a well-constructed board would have never let that happen, because you might want that opinion on the board, but you don't want that to be the main opinion on the board or to be the majority opinion, in which their case, it was the majority opinion of the board. So they were able to act on it. But if you think right now, what super dangerous world ending, like it's like, these things are automation with a little bit of thinking. Like, okay, like what have they done? They've done nothing. And like we're probably, we're saying we're 10 years away from good agents. If we're 10 years away from good agents, then everyone just relax.
But at the same time, we're going to talk about the very thing that is we're seeing the stock market rise and the layoffs continue, not to the level that we saw them in 22 prior to, but it hasn't rebounded. And I think that it's a really interesting point to ultimately say out loud, like, yeah, AI is taking people's jobs. Currently that is happening.
Yeah.
And what are those people doing that are not re-entering the tech market? Where are they going? Are they going into services? Are they being displaced elsewhere? And I don't think enough understanding of the reallocation of capital is being it's not just well understood, but it's not being discussed publicly. Like, where are those people going?
I think that is a real issue that is more and more awareness and conversation is happening around that, for sure. But if you look at Dario, he was saying in a very short period of time, we'd have like 10% unemployment, and we're not there, and we won't be there in a very short period of time. I was looking at some data right now, and we'll talk about this in a bit as well, but the hiring for mid and senior roles is actually up. It's the junior roles that's down. And so we need to figure that out. But with all technology comes some sort of job displacement, and this one might be a little bit more than the others. But when you think about Anthropic and their opinions, it was the scale of job displacement in a very constrained amount of time was their stance there. But then there was all this other deep fake stuff, and then the AI will take over, and the AI will do this, and the AI will do that. And that's just, we're not there. Now, listen, we're on an exponential, and maybe in 1 year from now, AGI is there. But we don't see many signals to make us feel like AGI is right around the corner, or like the type of AGI that we think of. They might define something that's better than what we have today as AGI, and fine, whatever. But like when we think of AGI, that powerful thing, we're quite a while away from that. And so it felt like it was an alarmist view, and it felt like marketing to me. Like Anthropic's approach felt like there's a subset of people that will believe that AI can be very damaging to society, will believe that Anthropic has everyone's best interest, and will give them boatloads of money. It was counter positioning to OpenAI to be able to raise a lot of money to build a good business. And I think it's more that than anything else.
Well, we talked about this a few weeks ago with Peter Walker around SPVs, and that Anthropic didn't want SPVs that were obfuscated, where people couldn't see what the money, felt like it was dark money. And then you turn around and say like, oh yeah, Saudi Arabia is on the table. And that does feel disingenuous. What business outcome or business, do you think there'll be any repercussions for Anthropic on something like this? That's the ultimate question. Does their outcome as a business, as a product change? And the answer is probably no. And so the follow-up question is, who cares?
I think they played their cards in a way that was net positive for them. I think the only thing that could be damaging to them is what they're doing, where they're trying to lobby states in the US to have state-by-state laws to control AI. I think that can get I think that can mobilize a counter movement in a pretty significant way, because it's just a really stupid way to do AI regulation. And I think a lot of people will understand that and push back on it. I think
it's actually brilliant. I will disagree, because I think that's brilliant. And maybe this is because
states regulate AI.
This is the United States. Yeah, I know it's ludicrous, and you know how well GDPR is working in Europe, but the reality is, in the US, states' rights, that is like the movement of the last 6 or 7 years. And so it's a brilliant part on Anthropic to lobby at the state level, because the states have shown that they are really pushing to get more power from the federal across a lot of things.
I don't think they're going to get broad state support, because I think if
they don't need to. They only need a handful.
If you're a Republican state, you're going to do what Trump says. And Trump is going to say, we don't regulate this at the state level. So what you're going to get is a bunch of the Democratic states that are going to act like police states on AI. And
but do they regulate it at the federal level?
They should regulate it at the federal level.
I mean, but that's also
where
not
you
the
regulate
Republican stance.
like that.
That's the thing that's going to be interesting. And what I tend to find is, regardless of political party, right now, money controls the mind. And so I wouldn't be surprised that if it does get pushed back and then it gets challenged at the Supreme Court level, that's what's ultimately going to happen here, is you will see a Supreme Court case in the next year and a half that will be around AI, and it will be a watershed moment for the United States because it will be a very, very big deal as to whether states have control of technology, which has never been done. It's not possible. You're right. So it might not mean anything
By the
but
time a
symbolic.
Supreme Court case happens in 3 years, AGI is here. Like, by
Well,
the
not 3
time
years.
they
They said a year and a
process
half. AGI is not going to be here in a year and a half. You just said that.
AJ, does it all just come down to the volume of communication and the number of things you're putting out? Because you might change your mind and you take the money from the Middle Easterns and it goes really against what you said before. But there's just so much information out there, and you are putting out so much information that people just forget and they just move on. So part of like controlling the narrative is just the volume of things you're throwing at the market. Like, does it just come down to that?
I mean, that's the world we live in, Austin. I think that that's been shown over and over again that that's actually a winning strategy. And does it affect their outcome and or their product in a negative way? And the answer is probably not. It doesn't really. I mean, maybe in that moment of time, it affects how people think about the business. But we just talked about that there are more than 10 AI companies, large language model companies, and we can't name them all. So it's hard to even think of who said what, and you start to conflate them. And you're like, at this point, like, okay, cool, I'm just going to use whatever other people are using to help me. And I don't really care as long as it's a great product. And that's the winning strategy. And that's the current strategy that we have. And I think the thing that will interesting to see is, does any of this money coming in affect policy on how AI is governed? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. What do you think, Austin?
I think so. I know a couple of the people that manage Middle Eastern money, and generally speaking, when venture funds take money from them, one of the pieces of advice the consultants who help you get in front of them will give you is that you can get as much money as you want. They don't really care about terms all that much. What they do want is access to technology. And so what you find is people that invest in defense tech there's more friction in it for them to get money from the Middle East than if you're doing consumer SaaS or something, or B2B SaaS. But maybe the Middle Easterns don't want to be in B2B SaaS as much as they do want to be in the AI companies and defense tech, etc. Because there's a real interest that they have in getting access to that technology for their own countries and their own purposes. And so I think the desire to have access and to influence things is very much there. They use capital to push their agenda. And
it's not just influence, but I think you're hitting the exact nail on the head on the innovation. And that, Saudi Arabia is relied on an economy of fuel, and at some point that changes. And so what does that economy look like in the future? I don't want to say near future, but probably within the next 50 years. And where can they invest to have not just an influence, but an actual directional control in for their economy a positive way? I think that's the right thing that you're talking on.
I think when it comes to rounds like Anthropic, though, I do think they'll get in and they won't have as much influence in a company like Anthropic. I do think you can countermeasure it. Like, I don't think that it's like just because they want it means that they get everything that they want. So I don't think this necessarily means that they have some inside access to Anthropic technology, or they get models before everyone else gets them, or they get to shape Anthropic's policies. I think that's their desire. I don't think it always will work out that way.
Maybe they get to learn more than anything. But the thing that we were thinking through a little bit earlier is that you and I talked with Peter Walker just a month ago about SPVs, and that Anthropic wanted to make sure it was clear who they were getting money from.
I met an SPV person, by the way. Wild stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. And what was your takeaway?
Signs of a bubble, unethical behavior, people being like, I got a 1,500 person email list, I can get into the best deals. Like, I charge 15 and 30. I'm like, you charge a management fee of 15%? He's like, yeah, well, if I'm carving out, see, what happens is Thrive goes to Anthropic and they get, a $1 billion allocation, but they don't have $1 billion. They only have 500 million. So then they carve out 500 million and they're taking a 10% management fee. So I need 15% management fee so I can get my 5% and pay Thrive their 10%, but I can fill that round super quickly. I'm like, oh, so this whole like venture capital thing that you said you were doing, you're not really like a venture capital. He's like, I'm a deal syndicator. I'm a deal syndicator.
I'm a deal syndicator.
And let me tell you that these SPVs are, if you can get access, they're amazing things because, meaning if you can run an SPV, because you take the management fee off the top. So if you raise $3 million and you've got a 5% management fee, then you wire, $2.85 million and you have $150,000 that goes right there. So it was very interesting, but I interrupted you, AJ, but that was a conversation.
That's all that to say, I'm definitely direct in SpaceX, 100%. Definitely not worried about that SPV.
What do you think, AJ? I mean, the broader question here is it possible? There's two arguments. Is it possible to limit the spread of this technology? The first part of that answer is, yeah, it is possible because it's really, really hard to make these chips. And that's why, there's like a total of 5 to 10 companies in the entire world that manage the supply chain for the production of these GPUs. And it's not just NVIDIA, it's, TSMC and it's, whatever the country is in Denmark that does the lithography equipment. And so, so one answer is like, yeah, you can limit it. Like you can and you should, because you don't want Iran to get AI or whatever, although of course through a VPN, I'm sure they can like log in and use ChatGPT. But the point is, and if you look at the spread of nuclear weapons, you can say, every country does not have a nuclear weapon. There's a contained number of, we would maybe like it if, India and Pakistan did not have nukes, but they do.
Pakistan used the smugglers in the country to get the information to make it. So like you can figure it out.
I mean, it would seem like you could figure it out. That's sort of the counter argument. The counter argument is like, the information is ubiquitous. If people want to do something, they can do it. Are we really going to prevent China or Russia or any of these countries from accessing the kind of technology that we're all now using every day? My instinct is like, no, we're not going to be able to do that. But tell me if I'm wrong.
I think that the counter argument is that the constraints will... there's this idea of constraints drive innovation. And so if you constrain it too much and they believe it's powerful and it's transformative, which I think everybody just believes now, right? They just believe that, okay, this is real and it's going to have a pretty significant role in the world in the coming years. And if you have it, you can win big. And if you don't have it, that's going to be a tough situation to be in. And it has huge geopolitical implications. And so if that's the case, if everybody understands this, then if you're a major country and you get blocked from accessing chips and all these other things, wouldn't you spend all of your resources to figure this out? Like if Pakistan, because on the nuclear one, what's interesting, Sam, is that the thing that stops countries from building a nuclear bomb is not the ability to get access to how to build it or the things to build it. That's not what actually stops them. In Pakistan, when they were deciding whether or not to test the bomb, the only discussion was, can we handle the sanctions? Because if you have the bomb, there will be such heavy economic sanctions on you, and Pakistan then had them, and they had to deal with them. And it was really intense. And so that's what stops countries. That's the big disincentive for the countries that have the ability to get the information and technology, is that if we do this country is going to be 7 steps behind for a very long time. I don't think that's
entirely true. Bring it back to terms in like a startup. A lot of startups know what they need to go build and like can think up and have the idea, have the blueprint even to go do it. But where do they get stuck? They get stuck in their own way with people, with challenges and like the table stakes things. You actually have to have a really high performing culture and team and company to be able to go do those things. You have to have the right momentum. And countries like the United States, it's obviously been talked about over the last several decades, have been able to do that, maybe because of the diversity of the country, but it's also just been like the quote unquote American spirit of innovation. A lot of these countries don't have that. They have totally different sets of mindset. I'm not also trying to blanket. It's tough.
Also, reverse engineering these chips is extremely, it's not really possible because these supply chain chokeholds are so meaningful. Like you can't just make a GPU. Like it's not possible that you do it. They're printing, they're printing transistors on 6 nanometers is like the smallest, like these, it's really, really, really hard. That's what I just read Chip War, Chris Miller's book. And it's just so surprising like we're in this modern environment and we think like there's this rich, diverse supply chain that produces all of the telecommunications equipment we use, and it's really
one.
not. It's like
It's an
three or
N
four
of one.
companies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think the in this is this through line that we're pulling at, which is that you've got these companies and startups that are taking these stances around how they're going to build their businesses out. And what they themselves seem to be realizing along the way is that the amount of capital required to build this technology defines your path in a way, because there's only so many, like you need so many billions of dollars. You eventually will land up in Japan and talk to SoftBank, and you will
Yeah,
go to
That's what I
the
was
Middle East
doing last week, by the way.
Yeah.
That's where I
AJ
was.
starting
for his new
The
LLM
Vision
company.
Fund is
Masa gave you
squarely
$2
in my
trillion.
wheelhouse.
Well done, AJ.
And so you land up in these places and you need to take this money, because without this, you just don't do what you do. And so you're going to walk it back. I like, Sam, your framework of how to think about when it's really deceptive and when you should be very judgmental about it, and when it's okay to let them have maybe a mulligan with it. But in this is a question of how important has it become now for a CEO to be public facing, to manage the narrative, to have a direct channel with your audience, to be able to control the narrative? Are we now in an age and era where if you want to be a CEO, being just a technical CEO and having a marketing and PR team is not going to cut it? You need to have the skill to be in front of the market, talking to the market, managing the narrative, all of that. Is this just a core thing that every CEO needs?
I mean, look at us. Yes, I think the answer to that is yes. I think that I forgot whether it was Andreessen. I think I did hear Mark Andreessen talk about in his Cheeky Pine episode that, you know, every founder needs to be a PR machine and needs to have a public face, and that's just content. You know, content creation is part of what you have to do. I think that's part of the reason we're all doing this podcast right now. We're investing in YouTube. Attention is the scarcest resource and the scarcest commodity, and you have to be good at capturing it. That's why we spent a whole episode, you know, a while ago talking about Roy Lee and Cluey, and we still make fun of him. So yeah, I think this is a prerequisite for operating in the modern environment. I think we live in a world where it's consumed by short little bits of information that you gather on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and sometimes LinkedIn, and you have to be there. And I think you do have to be on video. You know, I don't think text is enough either. What do you think, AJ?
I mean, to your point, that's why we do this. Also, Cluely took over my entire screen today, and I couldn't get out of it because it updated, and Roy Lee like comes blasting on and saying another one of his ads. Frustrated me. So I'm very, very much in that, and I 100% agree. And I think a lot of the CEOs, especially at public-facing companies, they're realizing this. What do they do about it? I don't know if they know. So they're going to hire a lot of consultants and spend a ton of money versus if you go meet your customers where they are. That's, you know, part of it.
How do you do it though, AJ? Like, you know, in this world where these CEOs have to be so in the face of the market, they need to be on social, they need to produce content, they need to manage the narrative. And then the job of being a CEO is also just, you're really busy, right? You're pitching investors, talking to customers, hiring people, etc. How do you operationalize going direct? Like, is this, you have a ghostwriter that you work with? Is this, you just, when you're on the pot, you pull your phone out, you put out a tweet, and then that's your daily thing? How do you do this? Because it seems like a heavy lift for people.
I mean, I don't have a great answer, because I think it's something I struggle with as well. Is like, there's the amount of time that we spend on a weekly basis for just top line. Austin, like, it's probably approaching 10, 15, 20 hours for you. And that's a big part of like how, and then we have to tell our teams and talk to our teams about why this is such a massive distribution opportunity, when we 2 years ago were seeing into the future and saying like, hey, we're going to start this. It's going to be a passion project. But at the end of the day, this is where the future of conversation is happening. It's happening on YouTube. It's happening live. It's not just three guys starting a podcast. It's three guys actually talking about what matters right now as an operator today. And look at the last 6 months of episodes. How many of them have had an AI conversation versus the 6 months previous to that? all of that.
I have an
That's
idea.
what people care about and want to know on how do we use this technology to better ourselves and just become better practitioners of what we're doing day to day.
This has been a fun discussion. Good episode. We have a question to end it. And the question is, what has been one of your memorable lessons of 2025? EJ, you've just come back from a trip to Japan.
I have lessons for
Had
a
some time off.
lifetime, Asid. I'm going to give a funny one and just a humorous one. You hear about Japan being so clean. It is ridiculously clean, and it is so nice how clean
Is this
it
going to
is.
translate to anything more meaningful, or you're just like, the lesson I've learned is Japan's really clean?
Cleanliness is good.
They don't have any trash cans. They literally don't have a single trash can in any of their cities.
What?
So
What?
Then how are they clean?
no, this is not a joke. No, I'm serious. They don't have trash cans.
Where does
So
the
the
trash
lesson
go?
is-
trash?
The lesson is in your pocket. You literally,
that's
I would buy coffee and I would have to carry around the coffee cup over and over again the whole entire day until I found a bathroom in the subway station that I could throw it in.
I'm sorry.
Don't love
this-
that.
Dear
Don't love
Japan,
that.
stupid.
That seems like
That sounds.
I need my hands to do other things.
That sounds really dumb.
My lesson is
in the sky.
how part of this is the stupidest thing ever is just how much it teaches you about being mindful around your surroundings when you kind of
This
like
is my
have to
shawarma
feel-
wrapper from lunch. This is my
Yes.
coffee from the morning.
You're-
Bringing it home at night.
No, put it in your shirt. You gotta just put it in and stuff it in your pockets. And
This is crazy.
that's my quick lesson on 2025, given I was just in Japan.
Well, Sam,
All right, AJ. Back to business. Since this is a business podcast. What I've learned is, we were at a retreat, the three of us plus two of our good friends in Connecticut, and AJ did beat me in ping pong. So that's very
Multiple
sad.
times. And Asid for the record.
I had
had a
a
broken
only
foot.
played one, but anyway.
Asid is going to use his foot as an excuse. Here we go.
But and we did this exercise where we looked at strengths and weaknesses of our various companies, and everybody sort of put a little dot on what my greatest requirement was for the second half of the year, which was to hire a great team and build a great team. And I think the lesson of 2025 is your results are a function of the people that are on the team and the people that you work with. And if you want different results, you might need to change the team. And people say it's a cliche, but A players hire A players and B players hire C players. And the problem when, all of that happens is that there's organizational drift and there's performance drift. And all of a sudden, missing the goal becomes okay. All of a sudden, 80% to target becomes okay. And you have to be extremely, extremely vigilant. And and this is relatedly the smartest thing I've heard on a podcast was Mark Andreessen. And he said this brilliant thing. He said, people will do anything. They will suffer any amount of chronic pain to avoid acute pain. They will slow bleed to death over 10 years rather than just having one tough conversation. And that's what I've learned this year.
That's a fantastic lesson. Only slightly better than whatever my lesson was.
Slightly worse than, hey, Japan needs some trash cans.
Mine is similar because, on this A players hire A players, B players hire C players, the lesson I've learned is that if you have a team and let's say it's 3 or 4 people, let's say it's a 4-person team and you've got 3 A players and a B player or C player, I think the team performs at the level of the B or C player. So it's not just,
100%.
I don't think it averages of the 4. I think the lowest caliber person on your team is kind of where performance settles down to. And we've all known this, but in our lives, we get these various reminders of it. This year, I had a couple of reminders of this fact that it doesn't matter if you have a bunch of A players, but if you have any B or C players, that's where your company will perform. That's where that team will perform.
I think if you're out there listening, and I'm talking to myself now, but if you build the targets with your team, the minute that you are sensing that it becomes acceptable over multiple periods to not hit that target, you need to think about changing up the team. It cannot be okay. If you build them together, we built this plan together. This is our collective plan. And the minute it's like, oh, well, another month where we're not going to hit it, you got to do something.
You got to make some changes.
All right. Well, smash the subscribe button, brothers and sisters. Sisters and brothers. I don't know if we have the IP. Could we ever just play a song at the end of Top Line? That would be so fun, but I think it might like violate ASCAP or something. Thanks for listening, everybody. Give us 5 stars on the store where you get your podcast store.
Bye, everyone. Bye.